we're back with more breaking news. This time about a major American automaker stopping down production as car prices are already sky high. It started with silence. On a factory floor in Detroit, once filled with the hum of assembly lines, machines powered down. Workers looked at each other stunned. The news had come down. General Motors was shutting down production again. This time, it was not a recession. It was not a chip shortage. It was a deliberate decision by the largest automaker in the United States to pull the plug on key plants across the country. Thousands of jobs gone, communities gutted, and in the background, the clashing voices of two titans, Mary Barra, CEO of GM, and Donald Trump, former president and the face of economic nationalism. GM's announcement came with a chilling clarity. The company was halting production in multiple locations and cutting thousands of jobs as it pivoted harder into electric vehicles. The layoffs began in Ontario, Canada, where the CMI facility that builds electric delivery vans went dark. Over 1,200 workers sent home. Hundreds of Canadian auto workers will soon be out of jobs. In Michigan, nearly 200 more laid off at Factory Zero, production lines for EVs. Vehicles once hailed as the future were now idle. GM said the shutdown was temporary, part of a retooling phase to prepare for next-generation EVs. But what they did not say out loud spoke louder. These workers are not all coming back. When production resumes, it will run on one shift instead of 3. Nearly 500 jobs may never return. This is the real cost of reinvention. Before we continue, hit that like button to help us beat the YouTube algorithm and to show your support. And then came Trump. He called the move a betrayal. Standing in front of a roaring crowd, Trump did what he always does: turn a corporate decision into a national headline. He blasted GM for abandoning American workers and threatened a 25% tariff on every vehicle not made inside the United States. The auto industry feeling the impact as President Trump's 25% tariff on imported car parts went into effect this weekend. His words hit with the force of a sledgehammer. The market recoiled, investors panicked, and automakers scrambled. GM had already begun sounding alarms behind closed doors. They slashed their profit forecasts, citing the tariffs as a potential $5 billion hit. General Motors has announced it will actually book more than $5 billion in losses and write-downs due to the restructuring of its China joint venture. CEO Mary Barra warned that the company would have to rethink its supply chain. They pulled earnings guidance completely, saying the outlook was too volatile to predict. On the factory floor, workers heard the echoes of 2018. Back then, Trump launched a similar tirade when GM announced 5 plant closures and 14,000 layoffs. Back then, GM said it was about efficiency. Now it is about survival. Before we continue, hit that subscribe button to show your support to the channel. Trump's new tariffs are not just numbers on paper, they are a political weapon, a 25% tax on all imported vehicles. No exceptions, no mercy. And he has warned that if countries like Canada, Mexico, or members of the European Union retaliate, he will double down. In Windsor, Ontario, Stellantis was forced to shut down its minivan plant. 4,500 workers laid off. In Mexico, another 2,500 gone. And in the United States, nearly 1,000 Stellantis employees in Michigan and Indiana furled because parts could no longer move freely across borders. With Trump announcing new tariffs this week, workers at carmaker Stellantis were worrying about their futures. The company announced Thursday it is temporarily laying off 900 workers at 5 U.S. plants. This is the ripple effect, and it is only beginning. Auto suppliers in the Midwest are being crushed, parts shipments are stalled, orders carnelled, tool and die shops that survived the pandemic are now bleeding from the tariff war. Thousands of additional layoffs are looming. Unions are furious. Flavio Volpi, head of Canada's Auto Parts Association, says 10,000 to 12,000 workers are off the job because of this shutdown cascade. and that number may be conservative. This is not just economic pressure, it is economic trauma. Consumers will not be spared. Analysts warned that car prices could rise by thousands of dollars. Buyers are rushing into dealerships now to lock in old prices before inventories vanish. But once the lots go empty, it is over. And while GM tries to put on a brave face talking about green futures and electric innovation, the reality is brutal. Workers are not losing their jobs because of failure. They are losing them because the world changed. And the policies guiding that change are tearing at the fabric of what once made America's auto industry great. In Britain, electric car mandates were quietly rolled back to give manufacturers breathing room amid Trump's trade war, and the UK government has announced a relaxation of electric vehicle sales targets to help the car industry in the face of those trade tariffs from the US. The European Union warned of economic retaliation. Japan and South Korea are on edge. Global automakers are reconsidering investments in the United States. This is not just a domestic issue, it is a global earthquake, and GM is caught in the middle. Mary Barra walked into the White House for a high-stakes meeting with Trump's advisors. Behind closed doors, it was tense. Trump pushed for more domestic production. Barra pushed back, armed with numbers, projections, and reality. General Motors is not offshoring to save money. They are shifting to build EVs where the parts exist. Lithium, cobalt, nickel. These do not come from Michigan. They come from Congo, Australia, and South America. The supply chain for electric vehicles is different. The production model is global, and Trump's America First policies do not align with that model. GM says it is building battery plants. It is investing in Nevada, in Tennessee, in Michigan. But it cannot flip the switch overnight, and Trump's tariffs may delay or derail some of these projects. For the workers, the voters, the families, none of this matters. What they see is a paycheck lost, a mortgage at risk, a future in question. And for Donald Trump, that is a stage. He has turned GM into a symbol, not of innovation, but of disloyalty. And in an election year, that symbolism matters. The next few months will decide if GM can weather this storm, if it can transform fast enough to survive the politics, the tariffs, the supply chain chaos. If not, the consequences will be historic. The American auto industry is not dying, but it is being remade in real time, and the battle lines are drawn. Trump has his message, GM has its mission, and workers have their lives on the line. This is the future, and it is not waiting for anyone. The tension has spread to Capitol Hill, where lawmakers from both parties are weighing the fallout. Some are calling for targeted relief for displaced workers. Others are demanding new rules that tie future subsidies to domestic production mandates. Quietly, economists warn that policies based on punishment instead of partnership could permanently fracture the North American supply chain. Meanwhile, Wall Street is jittery. GM stock tumbled on the news, losing billions in market capitalization. Analysts downgraded the stock, citing uncertainty over production timelines, potential pricing spikes, and political risk. Consumers, too, are left with fewer choices and higher sticker prices. The electric revolution, once sold as a leap into prosperity, now looks more like a battleground. Amid the noise, families affected by the shutdowns are making hard choices. Some are pulling kids from college to save money, others are delaying retirement. Local businesses near shuttered factories are seeing foot traffic vanish. The true cost of disruption is not just economic, it is personal. And so, as the world watches GM's gamble and Trump's retaliation play out, one thing becomes clear. This is not just a story about cars, it is a story about identity, about what it means to work, to build, to belong in an America that is changing faster than anyone expected. The outcome of this standoff will not only define the future of one company, it may define the future of an industry, a workforce, and an entire generation's vision of economic security. The road ahead is long and it is full of potholes. But somewhere on that road, amid the headlines and the heartbreak, a new model of American industry is trying to emerge. Whether it will run on gasoline, lithium, or raw political will, only time will